first of all, the majority of our population are actually based in the coastal zone. Uh, we have challenges with land-based sources of marine pollution. We have issues pertaining to uh, warming of the seas and particular coral bleaching. We have low fish stocks that result not simply from the land-based sources, but also in terms of the effort, the over-harvesting over the years. We also have issues, again, pertaining to, in all, overall climate change, issues of hurricanes and so forth, again, that cause significant problems in terms.
Is this a situation that has noticeably got worse over recent years? The hurricanes, in particular, the issue of the seas getting warmer. Is it physically apparent on the island?
Certainly, in terms of coral bleaching, we are seeing pockets, however, of some corals being reestablished, particularly on the west coast. But again, the issues with climate change in terms of not simply hurricanes, but storm surges and whatnot, and unpredictable events, again impacting significantly, causing coastal erosion. And we still have this issue again of land-based sources of pollution. Barbados again being an island, and given our demographic in the coastal area, and as a result, the government has had to take significant steps, significant measures to abate those concerns, to put things in terms of coastal rehabilitation.
What kind of things can the government do?
Sure. Well, it's almost from the 1980s, again, and going as well back in terms of how tourism being a major part of our economy. The government instituted a coastal zone management program that started with needs assessments, diagnostic assessments that evolved in terms of building institutional arrangements, in terms of bringing new legislation in place for coastal zone management as well as marine pollution control. We've also done considerable work in terms of coastal rehabilitation, in terms of coastal infrastructure programs that look at beach nourishment, that also in terms of simply stabilization of eroded areas, and that work continues. We've just, in terms of a new financial arrangement, a new financial package with the IDB of approximately $40 million US, are looking now in terms of establishing a spatial planning system and making interventions in particularly vulnerable areas on the west coast as well as on the east coast.
Barbados is obviously a small country, with a limited amount of resources. There's some things I guess the government is responsible for doing, but you don't work in isolation. I mean, do you work with other Caribbean nations, with the wider other countries in the hemisphere? I mean, what more needs to be done working with other countries in the region, with the wider world?
Sure. I mean, and thanks for that. As I mentioned in our statement, we've actually established two mechanisms at the regional level. First is the Caribbean Fisheries Resources Mechanism, which is really a sub-regional fisheries organization in terms of research, in terms of policy analysis, in terms of coordination and cooperation, looking at the whole issue of transboundary stocks, looking at the whole issue of the fishing effort per se, and in terms of improving the lives of our fisher folk. The fisher folk in Barbados and the region, again, are largely a key part of our economy, not simply in terms of food security and jobs, but also the interlinkages with other sectors, tourism primarily. They also represent, of course, a very vulnerable group in terms of the socioeconomics. And so the Caribbean Fisheries Mechanism is a chance, again, to how we can harmonize our approaches to fisheries development and fisheries management. The second is the Caribbean Sea Commission, which is the broader, it goes beyond the CARICOM region, but in terms it encapsulates what we refer to as the Association of Caribbean States. And that is a regional governance initiative, ocean governance initiative. And we have Professor Mahan here, who's played an instrumental role in terms of the science base for that initiative. We've done a transboundary analysis in terms of just identifying the common issues, common challenges, and now that the idea that for that mechanism to evolve into a much deeper, much more effective ocean governance mechanism. And I think that is a model. We're seeing that level of cooperation in the Pacific region. And I think there's scope again for the Caribbean and Pacific states to collaborate in terms of how we can build sound and effective ocean governance frameworks.